Well, again, welcome everybody. I'm Noel Peterson, and this is a real basic introduction to what homeopathy is. Just wanted to take this opportunity to provide this information. There's a lot of uncertainty about what homeopathy is, and I just wanted to really kind of stay ahead of that and see what we can do to answer any questions you might have at the end. Just some housekeeping stuff. The presentation itself is about 30 to 40 minutes. I am open to your questions as we go. You'll just need to unmute yourself and ask the question. However, I will, because I scheduled an hour for this webinar, at least let you folks know that it was that long. We have that amount of time left over to answer any questions at the end. Additionally, you can also chat. You can send a chat question to everybody, or you can select just me to send a chat question to, and I'll be checking that at the end as well, so that I'm making sure I'm answering all your questions, and then it'll also be a good way to, if you have a question, you can go ahead and chat that, and so you don't forget it as well. All right, so with all that said, I'm just gonna get started, and we'll start with a funny picture of me and introducing myself here today. I'm Noel Peterson, as I mentioned. I'm the owner and practitioner of Austin Clinic of Homeopathy, and trying to advance my slides here. Doesn't seem to be working. Let me try that one more time. All right, there we go. So I started this practice in 2010. I was educated in Minnesota for a 4-year program in classical homeopathy. And when I graduated in 2009, I subsequently moved to Texas and have been practicing ever since. I'm a board certified classical homeopath, and essentially that means that there are a lot of folks doing homeopathy in the community, but it's different when you have a board certified classical homeopath doing this. It really means we've passed professional standards and are working under ethical guidelines as well. So I wanted to make mention of that. I'm also a registered member in the Society of Homeopaths, and essentially the Society of Homeopaths is a rigorous organization, or it's rigorous to get into, and again, professional organization, and proud to be a member of that. Sorry, folks, I'm gonna try to advance my slides here. Not sure why they're stalling out, but I also have an executive MBA in healthcare administration, graduated in 2016. The whole idea behind that was to not only be a practitioner of homeopathy, but also to advance the reach of homeopathy into the American healthcare system. I'm a vice president of the Council for Homeopathic Certification, which is really it's an accredited institution. And again, not everybody who's doing homeopathy has the educational rigor behind it. And so what I'm trying to do is elevate the standards of how homeopathy is practiced in this country, and through the Council on Homeopathic Certification and the work we're doing there, I'm pretty instrumental in what we're trying to accomplish. I'm a published author. I've written articles for things in Natural Awakenings magazine. Maybe you've seen that, a free publication in natural health food stores, for example. I'm a guest speaker, so often do corporate wellness events, talk about homeopathy, and I'm also a guest on local radio shows and podcasts. So on wellness programs that are trying to highlight various natural health things, I'll talk about homeopathy. And finally, I wonder if this is going to be an issue throughout. The main mission that I'm focused on doing here is to make homeopathy more widely available and accessible for everybody. So I feel like this is a very mission-based career that I've chosen, and really excited that, again, you're on board with it here today. So, all right, I'm going to check. There might be some folks waiting in the. There might be a waiting room here, so I'm going to make sure everybody's on board. Give me 1 second here. All right. So, all right. So this is what you came to listen to, which was homeopathy. And let me get back to my screen here. Appreciate your patience. I am trying to make sure I can show you guys a presentation. And for whatever reason, that is not happening so easily. But all right, I think I'm back on it. So what is homeopathy? Again, that's what everybody here came for today, is just to learn a bit more. And what I really wanted to focus on with homeopathy, and what distinguishes it from um, every other modality basically out there, is there are 4 key principles that we're focused on in homeopathy. But I'll get to those in a second. But if I only had 30 seconds just to explain what homeopathy is, what I'm really going to say is it's a natural health modality, and it's individualized to each person. It is a means to help people heal gently, reliably, and rapidly. Treatment is focused on stimulating the body's own ability to heal itself, and we use homeopathic remedies, which are derived from anything in nature, to initiate the healing process. Again, if that's all the time I had, that's what I would explain, but it goes a lot deeper than that, and what homeopathy is distinguished from other modalities. Additionally, all of homeopathy, the remedies themselves, they're all FDA regulated according to very high standards of purity, and sometimes that can provide some kind of peace of mind for folks who might want to know what sort of oversight there is. But as I mentioned, there are 4 key principles to homeopathy, and I'm going to get into each of those here. First being stimulus to the body. And I just mentioned in homeopathy, it's focused on stimulating the body's own ability to heal itself. And we're looking at the whole person. So this is truly holistic in the sense that it's not just focused on one symptom from an isolated part of the body. Instead, we're looking at that in light of the entire individual. Another key principle is what I call the law of similars, and I'll get into what that means here in just a little bit. But the law of similars is probably the biggest differentiating factor between homeopathy and other natural things like the use of herbs or essential oils or chiropractic, for example. And then finally, in homeopathy, we try to use the minimum dose necessary to stimulate the body's own ability to heal itself. So with that said, I'll go into each of these 4 principles in a bit more depth right now. So the first would be stimulus to the body. Homeopathic treatment essentially seeks to stimulate the innate healing power of each individual so that all physiological systems function at their best. So it doesn't matter what the diagnosis is, it doesn't matter what the condition is. There's help in homeopathy because we're trying to stimulate the body's own natural, inherent healing intelligence. From that place, as the person moves toward his or her optimal level of general health, they feel better. So, and from that place of feeling better and wellness overall in a general way, the specific symptoms improve as the strengthened body defenses become more active. The homeopathic remedy that I was referring to helps to initiate that process by which a person heals himself or herself. So again, it's kind of a stimulating action that we're focused on, and that's one of the key principles in homeopathy. A second key principle is reference to the totality of symptoms. We in homeopathy view health as a condition of the entire individual rather than in terms of isolated symptoms or specific parts of the body. And homeopathic remedies are selected that best correspond to the person's total state of illness, not just the one symptom that brings you to the office, which is obviously very important, but that in light of everything else. And so we evaluate your health as well as the choice of which homeopathic remedy will help you. It depends on a thorough understanding of all of the symptoms going on. Again, not only what's happening today, but also health history. It sort of paints a whole picture of one's entire life, if you will, that leads you to the point where this is what we're focusing now, and this is what I need help with today. So we're also going to look at other aspects like general health, level of vitality, your emotional well-being. All of this is looked at and discussed during a homeopathic consultation. So that's the second key principle, is totality of the symptoms. The third is called the law of similars, which essentially means homeopathy is based on the principle that like helps like. And a remedy is chosen which is capable of causing in a healthy person symptoms similar to those of the sick person. So that's what the law of similars means. And so as a result, the symptoms of the sick person are the most important guide to the choice of the correct remedy. And the reason I chose a picture of a red onion here, which probably isn't so glamorous to see, is really just to illustrate the law of similars for you. So I'm sure we've all had an opportunity to cut an onion, and especially a red onion. And naturally, we all get red, itchy eyes, really irritated eyes, lots of tearing or lacrimation. Maybe there's some sneezing involved. And essentially, those are very common allergy type symptoms as well. So somebody naturally having those kinds of allergy symptoms with red, itchy eyes, lots of tearing, some sneezing, and perhaps mucus as well coming out of the nose, could actually be helped from a homeopathic remedy that's made from a red onion. So that's, again, just to illustrate how the law of similars is at work. And it was really kind of discovered by accidentally by a physician a couple hundred years ago who started homeopathy, but he thought that was really peculiar and experimented, and then essentially gave us what we now know to be homeopathy. So that's a law of similars. Again, a really key differentiating feature from really anything else that's natural out there. Herbs, essential oils, and use of minerals or supplements even. And the fourth key principle is the minimum dose. And this is where we talk a bit more of where I want to mention the homeopathic remedies. So they're usually made from plants and simple minerals. We make homeopathic remedies, though, from really anything in nature, but mostly from those plants and simple minerals. For example, one would be an aloe plant, or the marigold flower. That's what's called calendula. You might have seen calendula on the shelves, perhaps. Arnica, these are flowers, or some of the minerals might be things like calcium carbonate or sodium chloride. We make homeopathic remedies derived from that source substance, and again, anything in nature. We prepare them through a process of repeated dilution and shaking, which makes them capable of stimulating the healing process without any toxicity of its origin. So again, we take a source substance, like that flower arnica, for example, and we prepare it through a dilution process. So if there was any toxic level at the crude substance form, it's diluted out, and what we have left is the healing capacities of it in a very holistic way. And then those particular homeopathic remedies are given, as I mentioned earlier, to stimulate the whole body to heal itself. And again, this is different from herbs or even medicines, which are given to take away specific symptoms from specific parts of the body. And I did mention this earlier, but homeopathic remedies are made at special FDA-regulated and approved pharmacies according to very high standards of purity. So there is government oversight, and we're not operating in silos with it. And so again, that might just give some folks some kind of peace of mind too. And the minimum dose means we're using as little homeopathic remedy as possible. So because we're trying to stimulate the body to heal itself, we're trying to use as little as we can to actually promote that process. And I'll get into that a little bit more when I talk about what actually happens during a consultation. After the remedy is given, the individual's response is carefully observed, and we only change what remedy you're taking after a careful analysis. And as I mentioned, I'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about the consultation itself. All right, so now that we've talked a little bit about what homeopathy is, what the guiding principles involved of homeopathy, you might obviously be asking yourself, what can it help? What is the scope of homeopathy? Can it help me with X, Y, or Z? So let's talk about that. And let me try this one more time. So while this is kind of loading here, what I can tell you is that everybody, regardless of age, can benefit from homeopathy. And that's again because we're not focused on a specific condition or a particular symptom from a specific part of the body. So it doesn't matter if you're an infant, a toddler, young child, young adult, older adult, all throughout the lifespan. Anyone can benefit regardless of diagnosis. And again, it's because we're focused on increasing someone's individual strength and resistance to disease rather than trying to remove a symptom specifically like that. So we're working to basically give someone overall general sense of wellness. And from that place where everything is strengthened, the body can heal itself. As far as the scope of homeopathy related to lifestyle habits, it is not a substitute for poor lifestyle habits, meaning if somebody's looking to lose weight or decrease blood pressure, but Big Macs are eaten every day, or for example, homeopathy is not something that'll automatically substitute for that. Also, congenital defects, it's not going to strengthen somebody enough to change that. So we're limited there. As well as barriers to health, meaning a homeopathic remedy might not do much for somebody who has a smoker's cough if they continue to smoke. Or if somebody has headaches from taking birth control pills, homeopathy might not do very much to eliminate that headache, so long as the birth control pills are continued to be taken. Or if somebody's in an emotionally hurtful situation or is depressed from that, so long as they're in that situation, we might not be able to do much. But what can happen in each of those examples with the cough, the headache, or the depression is it can help actually strengthen you, even emotionally, so that changes in your life can take place and that you do make those kinds of lifestyle changes. And it's also noteworthy to mention that homeopathy is very helpful for pregnant women, or if you're already undergoing treatment and you get pregnant, there isn't a reason to stop. In fact, it's all the more reason to continue, simply because homeopathy can only help. It's not going to harm, and it can really help women and the fetus have healthy pregnancy throughout. On that same topic, I've also helped quite a few people with fertility health too. So if there's difficulty with conception, homeopathy can enter there as well and help the person with fertility issues. And lastly, I'll mention here acute illness. So acute illness is kind of what are shorter lived illnesses. They're things like an ear infection that might crop up, or a cough, or a cold, the flu, for example. And homeopathy is extremely helpful in these situations. Some of the most quick and respondent opportunities are in acute illnesses. So not only will we work with people with chronic health issues like long-standing issues like arthritis or asthma or autism even, but in between, if there's acute illnesses, we can readily help with those too. So that's the main scope of homeopathy. And with all that said, during an actual consultation itself, we're going to really focus on information gathering. So there's no expensive procedures or exams in that way. It's really based on how you describe your symptoms and what exactly is going on. So we're going to be trying to get as much information as we can. And it all starts with the reason for the visit. So what brings you in? What are the chief complaints? Is it blood pressure? Is it arthritis? Is it anything? Low energy, lack of energy, and it could be anything. And from there, a homeopath will want to know the location of the complaints. So let's just take an example of a headache. A headache isn't that much information for a homeopath in as much as knowing, is it a left-sided headache? Does it occur on the right side of the head? Does it start on the left and move to the right? Does it start in the back of the neck and travel forward and land over the eye? So we're going to get as detailed about that as we can, as well as the character or the sensation of the pain. Is it a burning pain, tingling? Do you feel numbness? Does Does it feel like it's cutting or sharp or dull or achy? All of that will really inform a homeopath as far as which homeopathic remedy is going to be best, as well as factors that make it feel better or worse. Does it feel better from cold temperatures or hot temperatures? Does it feel better from a change in the season? Does it feel better like with a pain somewhere? Does it feel better when you move? Better for motion, or does it feel better or worse at rest? Things like that. We get very detailed in homeopathy. We also talk about concomitants, which are essentially anything that occurs in association with your symptom. For example, with a headache again, do you feel nauseated with the headache? Not everybody does, but that could be a concomitant for some. Or does the skin clear up once the menstrual period begins, for example? We'll also want to know the onset of the symptoms. So when did things begin? Was there an emotional upset at the time? Was there prolonged or pronounced stress? Lack of sleep at the time? Was there an injury that produced some of these symptoms? A surgery, or really any factor? So we'll want to get to know the origination of the pathology itself, as well as general information. So in general about you, we'll want to ask you any things like, are you in general a cold person, a warm person? Do you need to bundle up all the time? Is there anything in general that makes you feel better or worse? So general information is very important too. So we'll go into a lot of detail about that during the consultation, and as well as ask you a little bit about diet and lifestyle habits. So are there certain foods you crave, certain foods you're really averse to? And believe it or not, dreams are important. They often lend insight into the workings of the unconscious mind, which can be very informative in homeopathy. Some people may get it, some homeopaths might be dream specialists. I am not, but I do know that dreams and how we relate to the dreams are very important. And finally, emotional patterns, very important in homeopathy. As I mentioned, we're not only focused on physically what's going on, but just, in general, your kind of emotional status. Are there certain situations that you're emotionally sensitive to? How do you react emotionally to those situations? As well as overall personality traits. Who are you as a person? If I was speaking to a best friend of yours, what might they say about you? Things like that can really help differentiate the person. And I mentioned this earlier, but there are no expensive exams or invasive procedures. And I think that can be kind of alleviate a lot of anxiety when folks come to homeopathy, that often they've been involved with so many procedures and so many, they take so many supplements and things like that. And ultimately you don't have to. In homeopathy, it's okay if you do, but here at least, we're going to get to what we need to get to without you having to do all of that. So that's kind of a nice feature. All right, as far as homeopathic remedies, that's our modality of treatment. And as I mentioned earlier, they are made mostly from plants and simple minerals. So, and after you take the homeopathic remedy, we're basically going to be, the remedy itself, can either be in kind of dry pellet form or like a liquid. Very often, if you've been to a natural health food store and seen homeopathic remedies, they're like the dry pellets. And then there are also tincture bottles of homeopathic remedies. So there are different ways to do it. And when you're working with a homeopath, they'll really outline all of that for you and what to take and how often. But the big thing about this piece, the action of the remedy, is that everybody does respond in a different way. Usually the effects are gradual and gentle, though sometimes it can be dramatic and more rapid changes. But since they're focused on improving your overall general health, you shouldn't be concerned if specific symptoms don't change right away. There's no side effects to homeopathic remedies. And if you have any questions about your remedy, you should feel free to talk to your practitioner as well. And what we're focused on taking a look at also is the repetition of the dose. So the most important rule regarding repetition is we shouldn't repeat the homeopathic remedy so long as the healing reaction that it started isn't over. So as changes continue, or especially if improvement is taking place, often we wait to take more homeopathic remedy. And again, that's kind of different from what we're used to in conventional medicine, like always having to take a homeopathic remedy having to take a medicine that supplies a form of deficient biochemical pathway in the body. That's how conventional medicine is. But in homeopathy, because we're stimulating the body to heal itself, that is, you don't have to always take it. In fact, we often wait to take it until we really know that the healing that it started has ceased. All right. And as far as how often do we need to take a dose of the remedy, or how often even do we see a practitioner, a well-chosen homeopathic remedy will have an effect that lasts at least a month, preferably much longer. So sometimes folks are curious when you're starting to work with a homeopath and there's only just those couple doses that you take. And it's often, where are the rest of the doses? Well, again, if the remedy is chosen correctly, you should have a healing response that lasts at least a month. And visits with the homeopath then are generally every 4 to 8 weeks. Depends on where you're at in treatment, but especially at the start, you'll probably see a homeopath a little bit more towards the 4 or 5 or 6 weeks apart. And then the longer you've been in treatment, it's much more spaced out. And that's what those follow-up visits are there to do, is basically to provide a full review of any changes that occurred. And that's crucial to really understanding about the correct decision to make, whether you repeat the dose or change the remedy altogether. And very often I'm asked this question, but people improve over widely varying periods of time. And it is proportionate to generally how long you've had the condition and how severe it is. Most of the time, there are ups and downs with how well your symptoms are going, but overall, your general health should get better, and you should feel steady, gradual improvement in both your energy and well-being, and then, of course, your symptoms improvement as well. So that's the long and short of what a consultation is, and then the effects of the remedy and what we do with it. And I wanted to just make mention of a couple additional resources here. Give me a second. We're not advancing here again. All right. Sorry about that. Sometimes my keyboard isn't advancing, but the first book I wanted to mention here is called Impossible Cure. It's a fantastic book. It's written by Amy Lansky. She's a PhD, and she wrote that in 2003. It's easily outlines what homeopathy is, and in very clear and succinct ways, and highly recommend it if you wanted to do, read the book or download it. Another is called Homeopathy Beyond Flat Earth Medicine. It's written by Timothy Dooley, who's a medical doctor as well as a naturopathic doctor. This is a very good read too. It's very quick. You could probably get through it in an afternoon, and is a great introduction to homeopathy. As well as the National Center for Homeopathy, and you can find them at homeopathycenter.org. There are a lot of homeopathic websites, but I think that would be the first key one to go to if you're a consumer of homeopathy, just looking for general information about it. So again, that's National Center for Homeopathy. And finally, I want to thank you for taking the time to visit or to log on today over your lunch break. I consider it an honor and a privilege to offer homeopathy. I sought it out probably much like yourself. It was kind of a mystery. I didn't really know about it, but I was seeking the deepest and most lasting form of alternative medicine I could find. And I found that in homeopathy, but it took a while. So but I do find it to be a, a privilege to really offer it, and to again have this time with you guys today to just talk about it, let you know what it can do. I know from the webinar registration list that there are some folks, I think, on the call who have received homeopathic treatment from me or even from other people, and you know, I didn't expect that. But if there's anything you guys want to say about homeopathy and what it's done, you know, you can always chime in too, because I am pretty much getting to the end here, where I'm just going to open it up. You can unmute yourself and ask any questions. I did see that there were some questions. I'm going to stop the presentation and just show my face, but I see that there are a couple questions here. Can you take your prescription medications as well as the homeopathic regimen, or is it meant to replace those? So great question, Julie. And the answer is no. So we're not aiming to replace medications, but what we are focused on doing is helping the body heal so that you don't have to have them. And that's a conversation you have with your prescribing physician, but the more you do homeopathy and the better you feel, often you start to talk to them about weaning back on the dosage levels or things like that. But I don't enter that. I just, you know, I'm not a licensed physician, so I won't get into that conversation. But you take that up with your doctor, but it's very common. Folks reduce or even eliminate their medication while taking homeopathy. As far as the price, Julie was asking about the price of homeopathic remedies compared to prescriptions. So if you go to like Whole Foods Market or Sprouts or Natural Grocer, you can pick up a homeopathic remedy for, I think, about $8. Will it help you? I don't know, because again, it's all individualized to the person. So it's not so easy that you can just go to the store, pick up a remedy, and it, you know, it's like, voila. But so in terms of the cost, I think it's actually very, very minimal. And as far as the price of the consultations, I've been asked that too, and so every homeopath's different, and at least for my rates. So initial visit for an adult is $200. For children, it's as low as $100, and then any follow-up visits that you have with a homeopath in my practice is $100. So being that you might visit with a homeopath for a couple times until you're really in a good place, I think in terms of the cost of treatment, it's really quite low compared to what you could pay for who knows whatever else you're working on. So those are very good questions, Julie. I'm not seeing any.
Thank you, Noel. Appreciate that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I just said thank you for addressing those questions. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And I have all my own personal rates are on my website, and I can actually chat that website out to folks if you want to see it. But again, I know that there's quite a few folks on the line who I've worked with personally. So I think I'll open it up more to questions, but again, feel free to jump in too if there's something you guys, your own personal experiences of homeopathy and how it's gone for you.
Hi, Noel, it's Kim.
Hey, Kim.
Hi. Yeah, so I'm a current client of yours, and I just found you kind of unexpectedly with my daughter first, who was having just a hard time with energy and sleeping and some anxiety issues. And I really wasn't sure, you know, how it all worked or if it would. And just to the other people that are listening, we had such great success with your evaluation of her and the treatment that you offered her. The remedy, I think she took, it was 3 doses for a day and a half, and this was a couple months ago, and she just really is flourishing. And it really was such a night and day change. I just wasn't even sure if that could be possible. So I came to see you myself just to see if, is this for real? I've had great success with you as well. So I just want to say thank you. And if there are any people on this call that are kind of on the fence about homeopathy, just to give it a try. We've really had some amazing results. And I've since gotten my husband and son to you as well. So thank you. The whole family.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. It's been a pleasure meeting all of your family. And you're right. And I mentioned early on, my mission is to make this very, widely accessible for as many people. And usually it happens where somebody finally just crosses the fence and tries homeopathy and they get better, and then they tell their friends or family, and it spreads like that. So again, thank you for speaking up, Kim. And are there any other questions or comments out there?
Do you have age ranges for the kids that you treat or see?
Yeah, good question. There really is no limitation to the age. I've seen kids as young as 1 month old, as well as to, young adults, 18. So I've seen it really all through it. And again, it's just because it doesn't matter what is going on. Homeopathy can help support the system to heal itself. So no restriction there, but I generally see a lot of the kids I see generally are younger, meaning like maybe ages 8 or 9 and younger. Sometimes teenagers I still see a lot of, but probably the younger kids I see more of.
Hi, Noel, it's Shauna. I was feeling shy, so I typed my question in chat. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Shauna.
I'm also a current client, and my son and I, and we've had great results. My sons have been more gradual. Mine have been, I think, more dramatic. But I just wanted to get some more information on the considerations that you take into account when you're looking at a pellet remedy versus the tincture, and maybe just talk for a couple, for a minute or so about the differences and pros and cons and all that.
Sure. Yeah, great question, Shauna. So in general, I use the pellets probably for the default mechanism that I use. I'm probably always seeking to use pellets. But I would change to more the liquid remedy in the event that there's like medication use. So medications act suppressively. That's what they do. They suppress symptoms. And when suppression is happening, sometimes the dry pellet remedies, I think they can work with suppression, but I think the liquid remedy, which is more often taken on a much more frequent dosing schedule, perhaps daily, is almost like, if you guys can see my hands here, suppression is kind of the downward motion of a symptom, whereas the remedy is trying to build you up from below. So it's almost like with that constant suppression of a medication, the liquid daily dose kind of builds you up. So I just find the relationship between medication use and how the remedy is going to work, I think, to be a little bit more gentle on the system rather than the dry pellets, which are kind of like more sort of like a more sudden kind of reaction a stimulant reaction that we're looking for.
Like a shot in the arm, although we wouldn't call it that.
Yes, it's not that, but it's a little bit stronger of a nudge than that gentle kind of building up from below.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully that helps. Good question, Shauna, and thanks for joining. I've worked with Shauna and her son too, and I was surprised when I put this out. The intent was brand new to homeopathy, never heard of it before, but most of the folks registering were current clients. So I just find that interesting and really appreciate you guys looking to just dive deeper into what your treatment's supposed to go like. And
I can speak to why I've kind of I had some very general information and wanted to try it, and I have tried it, and it's working and it's helping, and I wanted to join this to figure out more about why.
Why is this helping? Yeah.
Same with me. I had the exact same experience. It was like I got the results first, and then I had to circle back around and get more of the details, because it really is. I've been working on some of these issues for years, and to have things clear, it's really exciting, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah. Kim, you have a great sort of case here with, very often we can get so bogged down and overwhelmed with, if you're in natural health, it's, taking a supplement for this, or doing this modality over here, or seeing a functional medicine doctor over there. And it can get very costly and it can be very stressful. Whereas in homeopathy, we really try to just make what I'm doing is not simple, but for what I'm trying to do is simplify the healing process for you, so that it isn't complicated, it isn't too expensive, overly abundantly expensive. So Kim's had one of those experiences, and I don't know if you relate to that, anybody else hearing this, but all right. Any other specific questions out there? You can chat them. You can unmute yourself and ask. I think we've got the time too. All right.
Okay, well, it's Shauna again. I didn't want to monopolize, but I wondered if obviously you can't explain what all of the intensive training was, but I'm curious in how you kind of take the information that you get in a consultation and then choose a remedy. And I know, like, for example, in psychiatry or psychology, it's kind of like, okay, you take the symptoms and you look at the DSM, 5, and then, figure out what it is. And is there sort of a similar process with what you do in figuring out a remedy, kind of some manuals and guidebooks to go through, or just real briefly, I'm curious about what that is like.
Yeah, so I'm going to introduce some new words here, and hopefully they're not too confusing, and I'll explain, but I use what's called the materia medica as well as a repertory. And the repertory is essentially a gigantic encyclopedia filled with rubrics of symptoms. So when I'm looking at the repertory for symptoms, that in a consultation, I'm looking at the totality of symptoms, and as in those specific ways that I've talked about, not only just what the symptom is, but the location of it, the character of sensation, pain. The repertory is where I go to basically find what homeopathic remedies are in that rubric. In other words, those remedies will heal that symptom. And so you then, just try to accumulate all the symptoms of the case and what homeopathic remedies keep showing up and in those rubrics. And then you compare it against materia medica, which is another giant encyclopedia of all of the homeopathic remedies that we know of to help people. So I think at present we have about 5,000 different homeopathic remedies, and again, all derived from something in nature. And each homeopathic remedy is known to help people with these mental symptoms, these head symptoms, these skin symptoms, etc. And so it's an arduous process, no doubt, but that is I think fundamentally what I'm doing, and then there's variations as that every practitioner will have. But did that answer your question, Shauna?
Yes, it sure did. That's really interesting. Thanks. And just a quick follow-up is how many remedies are combinations of materials, and how many are just a single material?
Yeah, great question. So as I mentioned, there's 5,000 to 6,000 known single homeopathic remedies. But when you go to the stores, those natural health stores that I referred to earlier, you'll find the single remedies there, but you'll also see a lot of the combination remedies where, like, there's a cold remedy. It's like an over-the-counter cold remedy where you can purchase, and there's the ingredients there are many different homeopathic remedies. So I don't work with those. I'm not going to tell you not to take it, but but that's not specifically my domain. And so, as far as how many of those like combination remedies are out there, I have no idea. And anything you see at the store outside of those small single vials is going to be a combination remedy.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And just to ask a question off that, so if you do switch remedies, but they're single remedies, like how long you give a single remedy before you would switch to another single remedy? Like what is the timeline there?
Yep. The key factor in that is so long as a healing effect is taking place, we don't switch. But if whatever was being, whatever we were working on or whatever symptoms you had aren't improving or regressing for even, then likely we need to change it up. But that's kind of the general approach, and every case is individual though. So there's always going to be different ways that we approach it, but that's in general what we're looking for. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yes.
You're welcome. And Mara, thanks for joining. I just saw that you hopped online a second ago. Thank you. Hopefully you weren't waiting too long. But at this point, I've gone through like the presentation, and I'm really just kind of opening up to questions, comments, anything else that's going on. So any others out there?
I just have a quick comment. Noel, this is Tabby.
Hey, Tabby.
So, yeah, back to like, the stuff being sold in the stores. I would just caution everybody, to reach out to a provider like you or somebody, because we tried something for my son for bedwetting that was homeopathic, and everything, and actually had adverse reactions from it. And which are kind of, ongoing that we still deal with today. But, so just be cautious if you, do happen to go and find something at the drugstore or, Whole Foods or whatever. It's, even though it, is natural, it's not necessarily the best thing for the individual at the time. And it's nice to have the guidance and, somebody, from a provider like you or somebody. So, that's my word of caution.
Yeah. Great point. And so I agree. I think having those kinds of things on the shelves, like those combination remedies that have a certain indication for use, I think it's good in the sense that it's opening up people's minds to the fact that, hey, there's other stuff out there than over-the-counter pharmaceutical medicine. This stuff is actually there. It's natural. It's risk-free. There's no toxins. So let's try it. Yet at the same time, to your point, the flip side of that is, you could take something that the body isn't not going to resonate with. So like everything, you do want to work with a qualified professional. And so, yeah, I appreciate that insight, Tabby. Thanks for joining today too.
You're welcome.
Any other questions that are just at the tip of the tongue? You can chat it to me if you need to as well. All right. Well, maybe we're at the end of that, but so once again, folks, thank you for joining. If this information was useful, please, I put my website up in the chat box. You can, that's to the homepage, but you can find rates or my own specialties and how to schedule appointments, and everything is up there. So feel free to go there yourself or pass it along to others who could benefit. And let's see. Actually, Martin just chatted a question. Let's see. Would the remedies, pellets or liquid, have to be picked up from your office, or do you ship? So, Martin, the answer to that is both. Generally speaking, so I don't have a retail store, but when I do work with people, I have remedies for them. So sometimes, though, the remedy that I would like for them to take is not one that I have. So in that way, I do have pharmacies that I work with, and often they'll just I'll work with them and they'll have it mailed directly to you. So, but generally speaking, I provide it all. And then in those sometimes one-off situations, you can get it directly from the pharmacy, but I'll be your in-between to make sure that happens, because a lot of them don't work with consumers directly. They're professional. They only work with professional homeopaths to get those remedies. But and then Mara had a question, will there be a recording? She asked me that privately. Sorry, Mara. But this is being recorded, by the way. So it's an MP4 file, so I might have to reach out to Martin to help me figure out how I get that up to here and there. But anyway, it is recorded, and so stay tuned. I'll try to let you guys know where the recording is. And so again, yeah, thanks for joining. So I guess with that, folks, unless there's anything that's coming through, again, appreciate it. And thanks a lot. I do plan on doing things like this in the future. So even if you didn't catch today, or if somebody you wanted to join didn't today, I do plan on having this happen. I don't have a next date yet set, but I'll work on promoting that out. So, all right. With that said, I bid you all adieu. Thank you so much, and hope you all have a great day. Take care.